This is RTT with Terry the Tiger.
Thank you, Scooby and friends. Thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you, everybody else, as well. Thank you all. Today, I'd like to go ahead and start off by introducing my proud sponsor over at Cactus Chick Creations. You can find her out on Instagram. She has pictures of her designs. You can check out. She also has the link to her Etsy shop where you can check out more of her things as well, because she does not just do custom designers and tees, which she does, and those start off at $15 to $18 depending on what you want. She also does t-shirts, sweaters, about $25, and kids and infants also about $10. And when I say she does other things, I mean like she does like makeup bags, and she does home decorations and decors, things like that. Signs and posters. She does really anything that she could put a label on, mugs and things like that. So go ahead and check out what she has for you. She does tote bags if you like things like that, about $5. Go ahead and check that out. I truly use that. If you know me, you know I always wore and still do wear t-shirts with designs on it. From my John Cena t-shirts to little hazardous shirts to those just Walmart shirts that you see with in the corner in the boys section. But check those out, okay? This week, I'm going to go ahead and be honest. I've had Marvel on my brain a lot, mostly due to a coworker who has been on me about watching the Winter Falcon and Soldier, because I am 2 episodes behind. I believe they are on episode 4, which they released last week. I am on episode 2. So, I'm behind on that, and I gotta get on that. But, outside of that, I mean, I've been watching WandaVision. I watched a couple of those episodes again because that was really good. I really like that one, and I wish the season was longer, but I understand what they're doing, and I really love that. So if you've never heard of the Marvel Universe, or you don't know the order or anything like that, this is going to be a great episode for you to listen to, because I'm going to go ahead and go over all of that. So, I honestly just got into Marvel, into the universe, like movie-wise, maybe 3 years ago. I mean, I've always been into superheroes. Fantastic Four is actually one of my favorite ones. Of course, X-Men, I always watch them too. Spider-Man, he's my man. That's one of my favorite superheroes in the DC world. Always liked him. Personally, I like the Andrew Garfield version. I like that one. I wish they would have done more with that. I wish he would have been the one who fucking made it into the universe instead of Tom Holland, but whatever. But of course, Tobey Maguire will always be the Spider-Man. Grew up with him as Spider-Man for years, and he will always be the Spider-Man for me. And no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Don't like it? Oh well. You know my age by that. Anyway, so if you didn't know, which I didn't know, because I remember Captain America coming out, and I was in high school, okay? Captain America, the first Avenger, and I liked Chris Evans, so I was like, let's watch it, And that's why I watched that one. So I never watched any of the Iron Man movies because, to me, I hated him. Up until like 2 months ago, he was probably the most hated superhero in my perspective because I didn't like him until recent. So I never watched it. So one day I'm like talking to my sister, or watching with my brother, and we're like, hey, let's watch Captain America 2. Never watched it before. And so me and my brother, we go ahead and we start watching it. And my sister comes in and we're like, yeah, we don't understand. Like, I don't get when he came into play. Like, I don't get any of this, Like, I've never watched this movie because I truly never watched it. And this was maybe like 2 years ago when I'm watching this. Me and my brother are trying to watch the second one, And we have no idea. My sister's like, did you know that you actually have to watch the other ones to get to where you're at in Captain America, the Civil War? And I was like, oh, really? She was like, yes, there is a timeline. So one week, my brother had off, and we watched, or it was the Winter Soldier that we were trying to watch. We watched for 1 week, because he had 7 days off. We watched all 7 days, the entire timeline, excluding, I think, 2 movies, because at the time, the Endgame had just come out, and Black Widow was in talks, and that was the only movie at the moment that was in talks, nothing else, and I believe Stan was still alive, or he might have just passed, so that's why nobody really knew where it was going to go, and the Incredible Hulk, with Edward Norton. So she tells us this, so I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So after that, me and my brother go back, and, well, my sister too, and we go back and we watch all 22 movies, because the Black Widow is not included in the list. But, so it starts off with Captain America, the first Avenger, with Chris Evans. And the timeline, like, it's really cool too, just thinking about it, because also watched in Disney Plus, they have a whole bunch of extra documentaries and things like that they've released, and in one of them it is called Marvel's Assembling a Universe. When they first created because obviously the timeline is not in order on the way they created the movies, and when the first movie came out, which was Iron Man, they always intended to create the movies like the comic books, because they wanted to have the comic book feel in the movies for people who, grew up in the 80s and in the 60s, and just anybody who grew up before the movies and read the comics could watch the movies and feel like they're reading the comics. So for the most part, the comics really, really stick really well with the comics. And I love it because they created the Marvel studio so that way they could make sure it stuck to the universe. And it wasn't only until, like, when they got into cahoots with Disney that they were like, yes, Disney obviously had the money backing them, and they just wanted to make sure that Disney, it was going to be obviously a Disney movie, to where they weren't going to show certain things, but it was going to stay true to the comic at the same time, which is why it will always have the studio, Marvel Studio, as the big imprint and the symbol that is shown on it, rather than, the Disney icon or the Paramount or whatever, and that's something I really like about that. also, watching that, it also explained how Stan Lee in like the 90s, he recreated the character Tyson Fury, or Samuel L. Jackson, his character. In the 90s, he recreated him to look like Samuel L. Jackson in the comic books. So in the later series of some of those comic books where he's introducing, or he has Tyson Fury, he purposely makes him look like him, so that way, if there was ever a movie, and this was Stan Lee, he says this in the documentary, he says, I made it look like him so that way if he ever made these into a movie, this would be the guy to play the part. And then in the same documentary, they show Samuel L. Jackson reading. He says, because he was always into the comics books too, he was like, I was reading the comic books and was like, is that me? Is that supposed to look like me? And so he said he thought that was pretty cool. So, you know, that I thought that was pretty cool that he intended him to, and he played it. And so obviously, because of the way the movies came out and he had already been introduced, theory, Captain America the First Avenger, which is actually the third movie in the franchise to be released, it starts off with the third movie starts the actual conquest of what, well, Thor does, but this one shows shows another thing when Earth, I was not trying to bring just America into this, when Earth gets involved in the big picture, because we now have, outside of the technology, the technology that Starks has, we now have an out of this world object that's going to bring these creatures to us, because we have that. And so we see it the first time in Captain America. And so the second movie in the franchise is Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel came out in 2019, which is a really good movie. I actually ended up really liking this one. Obviously this was during the Me Too movement when they were doing a lot of the big movies. So I'm glad that they were able to bring Captain Marvel into the universe. She was a really cool superhero. And so her story, pretty much gets explained. And for those who question on why she doesn't come through, she explains it many times in the movies for anybody who hasn't seen it and questions, well, she's the strongest, why can't she? There's lots of other galaxies in the world that obviously need help. And I want to say, because at the end of all movies, they do that, second sequence. I mean, I'm sorry, there's going to be little spoilers on this, guy, so if you haven't seen it or you're interested, just know, I want to say it was in the end of WandaVision, the show. I want to say they're bringing them they're bringing them all back into together with the aliens that we meet in Captain Marvel. The secret ending, I want to say, was showing Wanda interacting with some of them. So if you haven't seen WandaVision, get on that one, because that is a good show. If that happens extremely after the end game in the timeline order, which I'm saying early, but the shows aren't in the list. So, and then pretty much after that one, in the timeline sequence, it's Iron Man, the first one, and the second one. Those ones come 1 and 2, really introducing more characters, more of what Iron Man brings to the table, his friends, Stargate or something like that. The guy who writes his other thing. Interesting thing too about that one, because for those who if you remember, in the first Iron Man, Terrence Howard is the first one. Well, I found out why he's not in the second one when I was rewatching these a few months ago. I was just like, I kind of liked him. Why is he not in there? Well, because I looked at this right after I watched the first one and the second one started, because Terrence Howard is immediately not in the movie because the friend is immediately. So I looked it up, and apparently, when I talked to other people about this, they said, yeah, they've heard stuff like this too, that Terrence Howard was just really hard to get to work with. And in the documentary, they talk about how Iron Man being the first movie, that they were going balls to the walls, and they pretty much had the mentality of, gotta go big or you go home. And they said that they were going to do everything they can in this Iron Man movie to show people what they plan on doing and what they're going to do. And so they said they hit out all the stops. Everything that is shown in the movies as far as his machine, the Iron Man suit, some of the scenes, like a lot of it, like they did a really fantastic job on old school technology and throwing a guy in the air with a wire and a machine. And on top of that, they took a really big chance on Robert Downey Jr., being that he was going through his drug phase and he was coming out of that. So they threw a lot of money into Terrence Howard, who apparently was the highest paid actor over Gwyneth Paltrow as well. And pretty much he was a snob, they said. It was hard to work with him, and they really didn't want him back. So supposedly in the article it said that in the second Iron Man, which is the next movie in the list, they kind of limit his interactions in the movie as much as possible, to where they kind of lowball him as far as what they're paying him, but only saying, well, it's because you're not in the film as much as you were in the first movie. And so he refuses, and they get Don Cheadle, but Don Cheadle, in my opinion, because like I said, read that article, watched the movie, Don Cheadle, way better actor anyways. And really actually glad that they did that and it went in that direction, because by this time it's 2010, and this time, the movies are still explaining the Iron Man, so it was still taking Robert obviously got off the drugs, and he obviously made Iron Man proud and made it look good. And so the next movie in the franchise is The Incredible Hulk. Now, I had to look this one up because I like Edward Norton, and I also like Mark Ruffalo. So I was just very curious onto why Edward Norton didn't continue if he is part of the thing. Also like Liv Tyler too. So it was just really what happened. Will admit, have not watched this movie. It was not possible to watch it. Nothing had it. And I've never had it. So I know the gist of it. I know the comic book. And from what I was reading, it does stick true to the comic book. And here's the thing. When I was looking at why Ed Norton's not in the movie, apparently he wanted to go... He had pitched to the directors and to the guys doing this movie that he wanted to go in the Dark Knight direction. He wanted to do like a 3-movie franchise, call it quits. He wasn't supposedly looking into doing a multiple movie cameo direction. He wanted to go in a direction to where the Hulk is a good guy, goes bad guy, becomes loved, and through the end, like Dark Knight and Batman franchise with Christian Bale, he's hated and then loved at the same time. So obviously they weren't trying to go in that direction because they had a bigger picture, and supposedly that is the reason why he did not return in the next time that we see the Hulk, which I believe is in the Marvel's Avengers. And so that movie, though, is the 5th movie in the franchise. 6th movie that comes is Thor. Sorry. It's Thor, the first movie. That one, I really like this one. Now, this one you gotta remember, in the end game, this is the Loki that we're dealing with in the movie franchise as well. We're dealing with the Loki who has not gone through his changes, who has not battled between his struggle with love between Thor and himself as brothers. He's still afraid of Hulk, from what I believe. I think he gets beat the fuck out of by Hulk. He smashes him. But yeah. Only understanding that because I really like Loki. And in this movie, this is the Loki we're dealing with later on. In the movies, in the TV show when it eventually comes out. So, Thor is the next movie. Finally, after that, we get Marvel's The Avenger. Real quick, I do want to mention, because Darcy is introduced in Thor as Natalie Portman's best friend, and I like her character, and she makes reappearances, so in the new stuff coming up in the Disney episodes, TV shows. So it was WandaVision. That's what it was. So check it out, because again, I really liked WandaVision. So after Thor is Marvel's The Avengers, the first. That's the first time we get introduced to what's his name? I can't think of his name. The shooter guy. And this is the first time that, officially Captain America is getting brought back after the ice incident, which I didn't know was going to be the next time I seen him, so I had to go through the Iron Man movies to get to this. And that was a good one, man. I like that one. So after the Marvel's Avengers came Iron Man 3. That one, I like that one a lot. This one is the one that I think made me actually end up liking Iron Man. Because remember, I did not like him. I hated this guy. I hated him more than... Well, now I don't like Batman. Batman's the guy I don't really like. I'll get that. Batman, okay, real quick. Batman, to me, is a whiny little asshole. Rich, spoiled brat who just does it because he has money and he is sad that his mom and dad died and this is the way he's getting back. Oh, but people say, I can't remember people compare him to a lot right now, but you know what? At the end of the day, I think it was Superman or something like that, being that Superman helps people and he does it only because he feels he has to. Yes, he feels that he has to because with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, the corny line, but it makes sense. It's true. And at the end of the day, Superman, in my opinion, doesn't have to do anything, but chooses to do something, even though he doesn't have to. He is truly doing it because he's a good person. He could totally be all pissy and make that the reason why, oh, my home planet was destroyed, my parents dropped me off over here, but he had a good life. He just wants to be human, like a normal human, and he can't because he has these powers which make him special, which makes him the ability to do things that save people that, would die in certain situations. And again, Batman only does it because his parents died and he whines about it. Now, my thing is, at least the Christian Bale version of it, him and Ben Affleck just destroyed him. I hated that one. He sits around with all these politics, acting like he gives no rat's ass, but yet goes around and does their job for them, doesn't tell them who he is, doesn't, do any of that. And as, Bruce Wayne, he acts like a dipshit and an asshole and this guy who just doesn't care, and he uses all that information to go out and do the so-called jobs that the police officers are not doing. So it's just like, no, I don't like him. It's annoying. Anyways, so after the Iron Man 3, the 9th movie is going to be Thor, The Dark World. And that one I believe it gets introduced to the, what's it called? The guy who collects the the guy who creates the weapons, I believe, is who we get introduced in that one. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that one. After that one, we get Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Now this one is the one that, of course, I tried watching, but it was completely wrong. Winter Soldier, I really like this one, only because in the Captain America movie, when we first watched that one, I really liked the character Bucky. I just really liked his character and felt like was attracted to him, just really liked him. So when he was, killed off, it was really sad for me. So in Captain America, when we see him, I like it. And then just to know, this movie is one of those movies that draw in a lot of the other movies. So there's a few movies that have done that at this point. There's the you can say Captain America, the first Avenger, because again, it brings in the we talk about Hydra, we talk about the freaking the spare thing turns into one of the things Thanos needs in the end. That one, and then I would say outside of the endings, of course, the next one was the Marvel's Avenger, and then now it would be Captain America. So those are the ones where you can watch them and not necessarily have to watch the other movies. So you could watch Disney does this too. Like, I think it's the phases to get you ready. This would be part of phase 1, which was this Captain America, the first Avenger. It does make you watch one of the Iron Man movies, and then the Marvel's Avengers, and then it would be the Winter Soldier. Because now, doing a little bit more spoilers, the Winter Soldier does bring in characters and people from this movie. So, don't think everybody's going away for good, because they're not. Next movie, which I fell in love with when I watched it, after me and my brother and sister watched the timeline movies, was Guardian of the Galaxies. That one was a great movie. I freaking love Chris Pratt. I loved all of them, to be honest with you. Dave Bautista. And it's funny because I found out the same guy who does Groot does the Iron Giant. And if you don't know who does Iron Giant, well, guess what? It is Vin Diesel. Groot. I will be back. Watch the movie Iron Giant. If you haven't watched the movie, that is a great movie. Hugar, back in the day with Cold War, everybody getting freaked out about that. Oh, I just love that movie. And just the beginning of the movie when he's eating the Twinkie and he just shoves the can of whipped cream and he shoves it in the little Twinkie and just fills it up and ate it. I used to be fat when I was a kid, okay? And I'm really fat, and so yeah, I liked to eat a lot, and so watching Hogar do that in the movie was just always something that I really remember. That, and the fact that the mom lets a man, yes, he was part of the military, but she lets this man stay in her house, and he's watching her son sleep. Yes, she doesn't know because she's at the diner, but it's just, man, yeah. Anyways, Vin Diesel plays Groot, and I love it. It's funny. After that one would be Guardians of the Galaxy number 2. It is the next movie in the franchise timeline. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, so when we're talking about the movies and the franchises, I love how they bring them all together to where the phases, and if you have Disney Plus, the phases of Disney is the MC Uverse phases, you can call it. So if you want to actually watch that and just not really get the insights of the boring Iron Man, in my opinion, at first, boring Iron Man, because certain people are not brought back. So those two, there's the Thor, a couple of the Thor movies that are not really involved in the timeline as needed. So there's some movies that are not in the evolution of the phases, the phases of the movies. And so you can watch them and it's shorter and you still get the gist of it. Okay, so I'm on Disney Plus, and the phase 1 is the Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, First Avenger, and the Avengers. And that's way so you don't have to watch all of the certain things, and you get the big gist of what's going on up until the Avengers. And then so in phase 2 it brings on more characters and things like that. I'll come back to that in a minute. But so Guardians of the Galaxy itself, his story is pretty cool too, because in this one, this dude is pretty much a god. He's half god. He's half man, half god. Because his father is essentially a god who is a planet. He created his own planet, and I believe it's in this one he is finding out and having to deal with that. And so the Guardian of the Galaxy movies, it's the actual story to itself, not the big MC Uverse, is pretty cool in its own, and I like that a lot. That one's pretty cool. So after that one comes Avengers Age of Ultron, which again is a really good movie, really good. And is phase 2 of the Avengers. And this one, I believe they bring in at the end. Oh, okay, that's at the end. They bring in more of our Avenger people that we like. And after that one, though, it brings in Ant-Man. My opinion, it was pretty cool. I like the characters. I kind of could do without. I think it was the next one, Ant-Man and Wasp. But anyways, the next movie after Ant-Man is Captain America: Civil War. This one was a really good one. I like this one. This was another big one in the MC because this one is a starting point. A starting point for certain characters in other things, because this is going to be the starting point for Black Widow. Black Widow is supposed to come out in July of this year, so this is going to be one of those movies that's not going to be there's a point to it, because anybody who's watched the Endgame, we already know. So this is the films between. This is going to be between Civil War and Infinity War. So Civil War is a big movie because it's it's going to be, well, why is she doing that? Why is she doing this? And who knows who's going to be back, That was back in the day, so maybe able to see some cameos of some people that we love again, and or at least talk about, and that would be cool. So, but this one does introduce Spider-Man, which, okay, this is what was going on, because you got to remember, Spider-Man, everything comes down to legal things. What is legal? What is not legal? Who owns what and who doesn't own what? So at the beginning of the movie world and the TV world, it was always easy for anybody to make money by somebody who was big at the time to come up to you and say, hey, let me get this character and I'll buy this character from you. And at the beginning, a lot of places did sole rights. And so pretty much at the beginning of this, Sony did a sole rights with Stan with Spider-Man. So Spider-Man has always been owned by Sony. That's how we've got the movies that we got prior to Homecoming. And again, that's also the reason why Andrew Garfield is not chosen to do this, because Disney had to have involvement in this movie, and so they had to and wanted to also choose the Spider-Man character as well as execs and people from Sony. So it was finally at this point where they were like, Disney and Marvel Studio was like, hey Sony, right now this is what's going on. Do you want to make money? Because if you want to make money, we can all make money if you work with us, or if you let us use Spider-Man. And so that was the only way Sony was doing that, was if you use the word use, borrow, collaborate, work with. And so that is how we get Spider-Man in Civil War. I love it. Again, I don't care for the Tom Holland character, but whatever. Next movie that comes into play, though, is Spider-Man Homecoming. Funny story. My little cousin wanted to watch Spider-Man. He wanted to go to movies. And he wanted to see a superhero movie. So I was like, okay, well, I'll take you to whatever movie you want to see. Also, at the time, it was Far From Home that was coming out. So I was like, I'll take you. You want to go see Far From Home? Let's go see it. So we go see it. I'm talking to him about it after we see the movie. And I was like, well, have you ever seen the first movie? No. Oh, have you ever seen the Endgame? No. So you've never seen any of the movies? No. Oh, so you were just as lost as we were? Yeah. Oh, okay, that was great. So we all watched the movie pretty much and had no idea what was really going on. So, but that was Far From Home. That one was Homecoming, which is the first Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man Homecoming. Next movie in the franchise, Doctor Strange. I fucking love Doctor Strange. Me and my brother both say he is the only other person who will give Iron Man a run for his money. And he already does. And I love it. You can't talk to another asshole without getting an asshole response. You know, it's just not going to happen. And, you know, it's like they have that big ego syndrome. And it's just like, whose ego is bigger? You know, one's a billionaire. One's a doctor. You know, not just a doctor, a profound doctor, the best at his business. And so, you know, when you get Doctor Strange and you get Iron Man, two assholes, two people who have big egos, bigger than their heads, who wins? Who wins? You know? I loved it. The smarter guy? Or because technically Doctor Strange was actually smarter than Iron Man. Iron Man is smart when it comes to technology and things like that. Doctor Strange was just a smart dude. He was smart, and he was a smart ass. And so, I loved it. I really loved when they collided, and you can see it. I loved it. You seen it. I think it was in... Oh, no, it's later, but yeah, it was great. I love it. And they're coming out with the Doctor Strange. Stranger Times. I'm loving that one. Let's see here. I forgot about that one. It's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's going to come out in 2022. Oh, can't wait. I really can't wait. That one was really good one. Really good one. Now, after that one, because we are introduced to Black Panther in the first time we see him, I believe is in Winter Soldier. No, it's not. Sorry, I take that back. It's in Civil War. It's in Civil War. The first time we see him is there, and 4 movies later we get Black Panther. So that one, I love the way they do it because it's one of the longer movies, and it has the beginning portion involves the MC Uverse, and then it goes on into its own thing. And I love it. Schmeagol is in the movie. For anybody who does not know, Schmeagol and Caesar, he's the only guy who is known for that. The guy who plays Schmeagol is in that movie. Damn it, I can't think of his name. Ooh, that's gonna bother me. After that one, though, is going to be Thor Ragnar. That one is a big one. It's very big in the franchise. I love it because they start to move, they start to interact with other characters in other movies. This one, they throw Hulk completely into it. Now, this is going to be a little spoiler, so if you've never seen the movies, sorry, but they've been out for quite some time. In this one, the Hulk gets separated from the gang at the end of Age of Ultron. And so, was it Age of Ultron? I think it was. Yeah, because he's not in Civil War. And we find out why he's not in Civil War is because he's out and about with Thor. And you start to see the comedy, the funniness that they're able to bring in with the characters. And I like that. And I like this version of Thor. He's got the short hair in this one. And this is, I want to say this is in phase 3. 3 of the franchise stuff. So yeah, so in phase 2 we have Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Age of Ultron, and then Ant-Man. So they have, and then they have phases 3 and 4 together in the Disney thing. So I'll get back to that in a moment, though. Ugh, 'cause yes, they've added to it. I haven't been on that in a minute. I've been on Paramount Plus, been checking that out. $5.99. It's pretty cool. I like a lot of the old school Disney. Sorry, this is my water bottle. Recycling. Yeah, no, so they're updating that. I like that. Oh yeah, no, so I've been on Paramount, sorry. A little stoned. Been on Paramount watching House of Anubis. Been going in and out with my British accent. Sorry, it's still not working right now. Sorry to anybody if that offended you. So the next movie after Thor Ragnar is Avengers, the Infinity War. And that one is, it brings everybody together. This is the first time we see that. And when I say everybody, I mean the new characters, the new people that we meet, some of the other people that we meet before Age of Ultron. But again, they're not on Earth, so it's not truly mattering to them. But this one brings in Thanos and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and at this point we know just so much has gone on to where if you try to watch Infinity War without watching anything else, you're gonna be like, what is going on? You're really not gonna know too much. But I love it. I love it. I love the way this happens. I love everything about it. And if you didn't know what I was talking about or referencing in when I kept saying Thanos, then it is because he's the bad guy in a couple of the movies, and he's the bad guy in all of them. In this one, you know, he's the bad guy. Love it. And so in the next one after that movie is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp. It was a good one. I think I like this one more than the Ant-Man, to be honest with you. I just love that it's based in San Francisco, being that I used to live there for a couple years, year and a half. So love that. After that movie, because then at this point it brings everybody in. We know everybody who is in the Avengers Endgame. And in the Endgame, I'm not going to do the big spoilers, but in the Endgame, obviously we find out some pretty big stuff in this one. this thing happens that is super irrelevant. Not irrelevant, relevant to everything that happens after the end game. And that is called this blip. A blip that pretty much got rid of half of the universe. So just in some cases, everybody just disappeared. And when I say blip, the way they show it is just like dust turning into dust and just flying away. And pretty much that happens to everybody. They all just, a lot of people, some people disappeared, some people stayed. The guy, I can't remember his name, but he's the guy who plays the shooter. Hawkeye. I want to say Hawkeye. And if that's the name, I'm sorry that it took this long. And if it's not, I could be thinking about somebody else. But he's with his family, and pretty much it's just him. Okay, I want to say the blip happened at the end of Infinity War, and then simultaneously Ant-Man was happening, Ant-Man and Wasp. Something like that. Because Ant-Man and Wasp, it ends up being a big deal in the end game. So yeah, I want to say Ant-Man and Wasp happened like as the movies are going through. Like, if you look at it, it's like chronologically, if you looked at it on a line chart, Infinity Endgame and then like Ant-Man and Wasp are like at the same time, I want to say. Because in the end game, in his situation, his people, his family, everybody, they disappeared. And so he was by himself. And, yeah, so that happened with a few people as well. Iron Man had all of his people, his family. But there were certain people who weren't there. And so, Falcon wasn't there. He disappeared for 5 years. And so that becomes relevant later on in the series. Because then after the Avengers Endgame, at this point, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. This is the next movie with Tom Holland and Zendaya, who plays Mary Jane. And, I don't really care for her version of Mary Jane. She brings like a really emo vibe. And Mary Jane wasn't that. Even the Emma Watson version wasn't that. Like, it was weird to see Emma Watson after Easy A like that. So it was just, I didn't like that version. I don't like that version of her. But that is the last movie up till now that is in the franchise. So that is the order of the MC Uverse movies. And in this last one of Spider-Man, it deals, and Samuel L. Jackson is a little bit more in this one, and he talks a little more with Peter about certain things. Again, things that happen in the end game. So if you haven't seen any of those, I definitely suggest watching it, because a lot of these superhero movies that come out in the near future just are going to be sequels and trequels, and even more, they're going to be introducing more characters into the universe, I believe one of the ones that they're going to be introducing very soon is going to be the Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It's going to be a movie, actually. I think I said that. It's gonna be the 25th film in the franchise. So it is going to be, I believe it has to be after the next Spider-Man movie that's going to be coming out. And again, I believe that movie is going to be coming out this year as well. I think in October. So there's going to be that one. Or I think because Black Widow is going to come out, it might push up the universe, because she'll go back and technically be between the Civil War and the Infinity. So they could put her anywhere in between, which would make this one the 25th movie if they were to go in that direction. Nice. So yeah, Sony is going to be producing that third one, and I really love the way they're going to do with this third Spider-Man movie. And I've been reading this article about it, and it was pretty much saying here that the third Spider-Man movie is going to be Spider-Man No Way Home, and it's truly done. It has finished, so yeah, that's when it's going to come out. It's going to come out in December. So they just confirmed that back in February, and so we're going to be getting that movie this year. We're going to be getting 3 of these, Marvel movies. This is going to be the last one, but I think it's going to come, technically, I think it would be between, well, I don't know, because the Shang-Chi and the 5 or 10 Rings. Yeah, saying it's going to be involved with the MC Uverse as part of Phase 4. So, and it's saying that one's going to be released on September 3rd, 2021. So, we got the Black Widow in July, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings in September, and then we're going to have Spider-Man 3, the No Way Home, then. Oh, it's gonna be great. And then you see it's the Doctor Strange, the Multiverse. That one's gonna be great. It says here, after the events of Avengers Endgame and WandaVision, and Dr. Stephen Strange continuing research on the Time Stone is hindered by a friend turned enemy, resulting in Strange unleashing unspeakable evil. I'm so excited for that one. So excited for that one. So that movie's coming in 2022. So that one's not this year. Just the other ones. Those ones are. Then so Marvel Cinematic Universe phases 3 and 4, if you wanted to watch it in that version without watching everything, you would start off with Civil War, Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers the Infinity War, Ant-Man and Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers the Endgame. Those are the movies if you wanted to watch those. Now, they've updated it and they have released these TV shows. They're short shows on Disney Plus. They're only I think 8-10 episodes. WandaVision was. They're only on 4 episodes right now of Falcon and Winter Soldier, but they are continuing on in the timeline of the MC Universe. So, after the Endgame, it does and will go the WandaVision show. And then currently it is the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Those are going to be the next shows in the universe. I like the way they're doing those because it's just giving you so much information, things that you didn't know about. Find out in the Falcon Soldier that none of these guys have ever been paid outside of the food, the food that Tony Stark buys them at the end of one of the movies. So, yeah, there's just like little things like that. We just find out some information about all of the characters. But WandaVision happens like almost immediately after the end game. And the Falcon and Winter Soldier, we're also finding out, is happening a few months after the end game. Like, it's just having to pick off, because again, remember, the Falcon was not alive during those 5 years during the blip. And what's his name? The Winter Soldier, or Becky? I can't remember his name. Bucky, Jesus Christ. Bucky, he is 100 years old. Or 106, 102, something like that. So, he's living in this world. It's fun. Those are really cool. So if you haven't checked out any of the MC Universe, or you've thought about it or wanted to, hopefully I didn't give off too much spoilers to where you're like, oh, I don't want to watch it. Maybe I gave off just enough to where you're like, it's interesting. But I definitely do suggest watching it. And I'm going to go ahead and let you know right now. At the beginning, before all of this stuff, all of these movies, no, they were not. X-Men is not and was not involved, but they are recently being introduced and brought into the MC Universe. Along with X-Men is also going to be Deadpool. They're all going to be introduced into the universe as well, along with the Fantastic Four as well. So I don't know if they're going to do the new Fantastic Four. Probably probably not, because I think one of those guys was actually in the Black Panther as a bad guy, so probably not that one. So we shall see. So I didn't include the X-Men in this timeline franchise, but if you do know those movies, the younger versions will be after Winter Soldier and before Captain Marvel, because those movies happen during the Cold War, and the Cold War happens before the 90s. If anybody does not know that, Cold War happened in the 70s, and Captain Marvel happened in the 90s, essentially. Blockbuster was still around. Yeah, so they would be in there if you wanted to add them. And then, early 2000s, in between Iron Man. X-Men would go in the early stage, the beginning, if you wanted to add them. But they are going to be working, Fox and who owns the rights to the Fantastic Four, they are working with, since Disney does own them now, they are working on making those. I don't know if they're going to make a movie or if they're going to make TV shows, but they're going to introduce and bring them all together in this bigger universe. So if you're a comic book fan, you should be excited, because it's going to be a big thing. A lot of good stuff's going to be happening really, really soon in the next few years with the Disney and the MC Universe and the Marvel Studio and everything that they're going to be bringing in. And guys, if you have not seen WandaVision, I definitely suggest watching that. So, as usual, I'm going to go ahead and end this off with talking about the UFC fights that are happening this weekend, Saturday, April 17th at the Apex. Well, real quick, just wanted to throw out there, Marvin Vettori, knew that was going to happen. I think he could take out Izzy too, and I think that's going to be the first Italian. Oh, no, is he the first Italian? I have to think about that one. I don't know about that. But he's going to be a champion, definitely. I was wrong about Yusuf. that was, yeah, I was wrong about that. My bad. But, Robert Whitaker versus Kevin Gaslam. This is going to be a good one. You know, at least if Robert Whitaker wants to have his shot back for the title. Because right now, I definitely would say Marvin Vettori should be the next person to fight for the title. And after this fight with Kevin and Gaslam, that should be up there too. Because I don't think, yeah. But that's going to be a good one. I like Robert Whitaker. I like Kevin Gaslam. These ones are hard. Like I said, I don't like to pick fights when I like two guys almost equally. But if I had to choose, I would say Kevin Gaslam. Yeah, that one. Jeremy Stevens and Drakkar Klose, they're going to be fighting in the next one. I like Jeremy Stevens, but Klose is he's young. He's on a roll. You know, he's not too young, but I don't know, 33. I think he's at the right age to do good. I think he won his last couple of fights. But they're pretty even. It should be good, but I'm going to go for Klose on that one. Luis Pena, he's fighting. He's going to be the second card on the main card. Second fight on the main card. I like him. I would always go for him. He's a long, lengthy guy. It's pretty hard for people to fight guys like him unless they can rush him and, you know, close that and not allow him to use his length reach. Then I think he could win that fight. And then you got Ricardo Lomos and Bill Algeo, which are the first card on the fight. That should be a banger, but Algeo, I think he could get that one. Like I said, it's going to be a banger, depending on what Ricardo Ramos is going to do, how he's going to come in and fight. If he wants to go to the ground, that's going to be a good one. He'll dominate if that happens. So we'll see how that goes. On the prelims, there's a lot of women fights in the flyweight, strawweight, and the bantamweight division. You know, you don't often get 3 girl fights on a card, so hopefully they're good. Hopefully there's some bangers. But you do have a heavyweight fight on the main card, on the prelim card. Alexander Romanov against Juan Espino. That one is going to be a good one. Juan is a good fighter. He's all that, you know, he's a big guy. But Alexander Romanov, I mean, he's a Romanov. You're just that side of the country, man. They're just beasts. He's 13-0, and I think he's going to continue that. I think he's going to get the win. Then you got down here in bantamweight division, Jose Nunez against Zara Ferenda Santos. I'm putting all my money on Nunez. I'm just looking at some easy wins, some easy picks on DraftKings, things like that, and honestly, Dos Santos, she's lost her last 2 or 3 fights she's been in. I think this Jose Nunez, I think this is going to be her debut, but I'm looking into her. She's been on a 7 fight win streak. She's getting knockouts and TKO stoppages, so she's there to fight, and the way she looks, she's a Brazilian fighter. They're all great. Whether she's related to Amanda Nunez, don't know, but she looks like she gets some skills up. She could fight some more. Maybe she could be in picture talk for a bantamweight fight. But yeah, so that's going to be a women bantamweight fight. beginning of the prelims. It's going to be the second fight on the card after Tony Gravely and Anthony Burchart. I didn't really look into them. But, should be a good fight card. Get to watch it. I'm off work, getting the second COVID shot, so hopefully I don't get sick. But, check that out. Here on the West Coast, it starts at 4 p.m. Main card starts at 7 p.m. on the West Coast on Saturday, April 17th. Should be a good fight. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you all for listening to my ramble about the superhero in the MC Uverse. Been wanting to share some of this information for quite some time. Actually, you know what? I forgot about this one, because this was a really interesting fact. Because on that Disney Plus that I was saying, they have a lot of documentaries and just different things and specials on here. And in one of them, it was called this Pop, from Pulp to Pop. And it was just talking to you about the history of superheroes and Marvel itself and how it started and everything. And I find this really, really cool, because they say behind every great man is a strong woman. And Stan Lee's wife, man, we owe her a big thank you, because if it wasn't for his wife, who gave, so in the documentary, he was saying that he was wanting to quit. And he didn't want to do it because back in the day, apparently it was like not cool to be part of the comic book world and the industry because you were looked at as a child, and that was a child thing, and you weren't like a real artist or a real creator because that was a child thing. So Stan Lee is actually not even Stan Lee's real name. Obviously, a lot of us now know it's Stan Lee. Lee something, So Stan Lee, he wanted to quit, and his wife told him. He went to his wife and was like, "Should I quit?" And his wife said, "Do it just a little bit more, and see." And then so shortly after that is when the Marvel comic kind of actually blew up, and shortly after that, it got big in the late 70s, early 80s. It really started growing, and the comic book world grew, and he continued doing what he loved to do, and we got the movie franchise later on because he wanted to see it on screen, and people did too. And yeah, fun little fact right there. Stan Lee was about to quit, and his wife said, "Keep on, honey, keep on. Give it a try. Do what you want to do for a little longer. Then go do something else that you don't want to do for the rest of your life a little longer." So, little fun fact. But, again, thank you, Scooby, and everybody for listening in today, and hope you all have a good day. Don't forget to watch the fights this weekend. Hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.